Hey everybody, welcome to another video. I'm Rich Wilson, founder and filmmaker at Vibe Media, where we help your brand build to an influencer level online presence using filmmaking tools and tips to tell your story. In this video, we've got another movie challenge for you today coming from our director of photography, Forrest, and the movie is that late 1990s mystery thriller, Bone Collector. Now, this is a great movie to talk about. Star-studded cast. You've got Denzel Washington, Angelina Jolie, and so many others, definitely early in their careers. But it also opened the way for a lot of different subgenres. Genres? Yeah. Anyway, if you haven't seen the movie, why don't you just go and watch it, come on back, and take a listen to what our thoughts are about the movie. So with that, let's get on with the episode. Hey everybody, welcome to Vibe Check, the show for filmmakers and film enthusiasts. I'm Rich Wilson, founder and filmmaker at Vibe Media. We've got Forrest, we have Dana. We are all here talking about some of our favorite films. And also today is a movie challenge. And it comes from Forrest. And the movie is Bone Collector. So take us through Bone Collector here. Just a little brief synopsis.
A brief synopsis. Oh, how do I synopsize this? So it's a psychological thriller, 1997 or 8, I think. I don't remember the year offhand. Essentially just about a serial killer that is creating tableaus off of a story. And it kind of unfolds as you go through. It's a very star-studded cast. Kind of a lot of their earlier films, or a lot of the first time that you see some of them here. But yeah, detective just trying to solve a set of murders, and then kind of slowly the string unravels as the story goes on. So
yeah, big time.
I think as we get into it, I'm interested to see what your guys' opinions are on it, because it is definitely a little bit of a slower burn movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, first impressions, like it was kind of a slow burn for me. Denzel Washington does fantastic in the movie, even though he's basically in a bed the entire time. But
great method acting.
Yes, exactly. But I thought it started off pretty shocking. Just him walking on to the crime scene and going through, and then boom, something falls on him, and you wake up and he's in a bed. And I didn't even realize till halfway through the movie it was like that had been happened 4 years earlier. I thought this was like maybe like 6 months later, or just a few months, like a year or something like that. And then they happened to mention halfway through the movie, it's like, oh yeah, 4 years ago this happened, and that's why he's in the bed. I was like, oh yeah. Oh, wow. So there's been a significant amount of time that has happened here. So
yeah. No, I thought it was really good. There was definitely some plot holes for me as far as like character development went, and it was almost 2 hours. So for me, it was just kind of like, okay, like why would you even introduce that part to the story if you're not even going to incorporate it half an hour or even an hour later? Like, what was the whole purpose of it?
It was kind of a shorter movie. It was just 2 hours, or just shy of 2 hours. So it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I just love it because it's an interesting. I've always loved the movies that make you think, that make you kind of a little creeped out a little bit too, of like, what's going on with this? I don't understand the logic behind it. And so as you go on and you start seeing the books and the pictures that they're copying, all of those tableaus and everything, it's just so interesting to me, the detail that goes into it, the mindset of everything here on that. So, I mean, besides, obviously the star-studded cast, it's just a great overall movie for a different genre of the time. Because in the 90s, it wasn't really a big genre to do.
Yeah, like we've had very few like really crime thrillers in that time. Some, but not many. But yeah, this one was definitely also very different, because a lot of the action happened. He's kind of the main character, and yet he wasn't part of the action at all. He was just kind of just a voice in everybody's head, pretty much. Not psychologically, but like in their ear, right? I liked it.
It was okay.
Yeah, like it wasn't a the greatest movie I've seen, but I liked it. I also think that there's some I like mystery thrillers like this, like something very gets you thinking, something mystery, finding clues and just kind of piece them together and try to find the little nuances in the characters to see if is that the killer, which by the way I figured out like halfway through the movie.
How?
Huh?
How? There is literally nothing pointing to who the actual killer was. Not a single thing. In fact, they let it down 2 different tracks, and then at the end it was just like, no, not possible.
Yeah, I didn't think it was the captain because it was too obvious.
Yeah, no, I knew he wasn't because that was a very obvious lead
Mm-hmm.
into it. But then they introduced the librarian. And it's like, okay, they just showed some guy with creepy eyes like this, and why are they emphasizing on his creepy eyes? Like, they're definitely hinting towards something here. And then it's his doctor?
Yeah.
What? That's like what kind of took me out of it.
Let me amend what I figured out halfway through the movie. I suspected it was the doctor just because that one scene when he walks in and he sees all the cops there, his reaction was,
I guess that's
holy
true.
crap.
Yeah.
And he was very nervous. And that's where I was like, But then about halfway through the movie, I was like, okay, this is about Denzel's character. I'm like, this is about him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is all revolving around him because they kept on talking about his, he's a famous author and books, and he wrote a bunch of things of true crimes and all that, and he's cataloged and has a database of like his own little collection.
He gets all this funding from the department and recognition.
Oh yeah, even though he's bedridden and he's like one seizure away from being a vegetable, he still is
fighting crime.
He's still fighting crime. He's still on full duty,
yeah,
and etc. And
well, the other hint throughout the entire movie that it is the doctor is the MO of the killer always taking a piece of their bone out of their body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's something that's such a subtle hint at like who would have the ability or the.
They kept on saying strategic or not strategically, but surgically removed. So I'm like, okay, it has to be somebody.
I was thinking it was the friend who he requested to help him transition because he was gone the rest of the movie, did not come back once. So it was like, okay. Maybe it's if it's someone who's like got surgical stuff and like they've got a grudge against Denzel's character, like it could very well be the person who's asking him to transition into the next life, and this could be his way of helping him transition into the next life, considering he would have been his last victim. Like in my mind, that would have been a much cooler plot twist than the whole, oh, you ruined my paper and created this whole scandal for me that we literally got no hinting towards at any point in the movie.
But with that theory, remember they went back and looked at unsolved homicides for the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And there was 4 that already popped up before he even talked to his doctor at the very beginning of the movie, saying, I want this final transition.
So he's been trying to convince him. And if he's been bedridden for 4 years, who knows how long he's been trying to convince his doctor friend. And that final conversation he had with him was the convincing conversation to help him do it.
Even though it's already been in motion.
And then it finally starts solving the crimes and all of this stuff, and it leads up to him being the final victim. It's like, yes, I like that idea so much better.
Yeah.
There are some plot holes. I'd be interested to see if you ended up at some point in time in your life rewatching it, because I know it's hard to like rewatch again without it just maybe watching it with somebody else who hasn't seen it. If you would pick up on some of the things that you're like, oh well, it does make sense now. Like there was some hints in there. It's just very subtle now that I know the ending, kind of. And this movie does a good job. It's also laying the foundation for actually a lot of. You think of all the. Saw
I thought of like
movies,
7.
Saw 7. All these movies have that very like puzzle base where you're trying to figure out who did it.
Or even look at some of the crime TV shows that came out in the early 2000s to the early 2010s, right? You've got Criminal Minds, you've got CSI, all the iterations of CSI.
SVU, Law and Order.
Exactly, Law and Order.
Had a very similar, like a long story arc that had to do with the miniature killer that was making,
which is my favorite. Yes, that was my favorite.
Dexter had like the tableau killer that was like creating tableaus, and killing people based on
right,
that.
and then having those puzzles and trying to figure out, looking at the evidence and trying to, like the why sometimes doesn't even matter, because I don't know why that he did it until the end, until the doctor was
and
like,
for me it was just kind of like, whatever, like that wasn't that. I mean, it just kind of seemed like a quick, solve to the story. And also, I really wish they would have fleshed out Angelina Jolie's character's story a little bit more. Like, why did her dad commit suicide? Like, what was the reason for it? Like, and then why did she want to become a cop?
Yeah.
Like,
she was a model.
Exactly.
They even half mentioned that. You were a model? Yeah, when I was a kid. I'm like, looks like this is like 3 years old.
You literally look like you just switched wigs.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. You have bangs here and now you don't. That's it.
Right. Well, and then also, to go with your, to go on top of what you were saying with her character development, it just seemed like her character at times was just a little flat for me. That she went from A to C and B wasn't even in there.
And her fake crying, oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Early acting.
I know it's early. I know it's early acting, but I see
True.
her now, and like she obviously doesn't really fake cry in movies, but it's like
probably because of the movie. She's like, I'm not going to fake cry again because
that was just groaning and grunting.
When she was in that, that was a good one.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, obviously, they've developed since then. It's a very interesting movie to me because it also leads into, as I was mentioning, the Saw movies. They take a lot of these same notes from that. They, Dexter, as I said, CSI, all these shows have the Zodiac Killer even. Think of things where it's like serial killers and things started to have tableaus, and this is kind of the first instance a long time ago of some of those things.
And so many people really love those type of like puzzle crime stories. They even mention it in the movie, right? You have all these crime novels. Even in the real world, our world, we have crime novels that date back for forever. Sherlock Holmes is like a big one. There's a lot of crime and detective stories in that, and then you've got even as some of us were growing up, you got like the Nancy Drew series, you got the Hardy Boys, you've got all these other like little mystery, Scooby-Doo,
Pretty Little Liars,
yeah, exactly. Showing your age now, right?
Hey, I'm young. What are you talking about?
I know. We're talking about Hardy Boys, and she's talking about Pretty Little Liars over here.
No, so I mean, it's definitely though I think it's a well shot movie. I think it uses its locations very well too for the creepy subways. You're working in a big city that's
gross and dirty
weird corners and things that people don't go into. So the aesthetic of it all is very interesting. Going from that to a clean hospital room too. It's like back and forth between like the polar opposites of this is
also
not normal.
I really wish they would have found the book a lot earlier into the movie, because then it would have made it, I feel, like a lot more interesting, instead of them like trying to quickly find these crimes. It's like, oh, you got to study the book and solve the clues in the book,
right? Because the first piece of paper had like
a page number
119, right?
Yeah.
They never mentioned that again. Like once they found the book, I'm like, 119, go to 119. What are you doing? What does 119 says? And they don't go to it. And I was like, what?
Stop looking at the binding. Open the book.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's got the symbol. Whoa, okay, here we go. Oh, it's got the pictures of all the murders. That's crazy. I'm like, but what does it say on page 119?
Come on, Angelina, we don't have time.
But yeah, like there was also some other things that that I picked up on, like at the very beginning, the Falcon. You only see him like 2 or 3 times, and then you just don't see him again. But there is a significance for the Falcon in the movie. Falcon is always a symbol and symbology that symbolizes like victory or freedom. I took it as like, oh, the Falcon is at his window taunting him because he doesn't have the freedom that he is wishing, or he has a barrier to the freedom that he's seeking. You see the Falcon when he's talking to the doctor about his final transition and that freedom. And then and then it taunts him again when he's like halfway through a seizure or something like that, and so I picked up on that, but you only see the Falcon like twice, and that's it.
It's just more little clues to
Yeah.
have some sort of symbolism in it, because there is a lot of just symbolism, a lot of parallels between obviously the book that's going on and,
Right.
and the murders and all
True,
that. So
but again, like for me, like I picked up on it, and I thought that was really interesting,
you wanted more.
but I wanted some kind of resolution.
Yeah.
Like maybe the Falcon coming back at the end with the Merry Christmas and then him, flying away or something. I don't know. Like some kind of resolution. Like why have it in there for symbolic sake if you're only going to use it twice and there wasn't a significant thing. It was just there, just to put in there and to say, oh hey, I wonder if anybody will
And
pick
this
up on
is
this.
why I picked this movie, because it is really good as far as like a plot, like and everything that's
It's
going
a good
on.
idea.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it is.
It has good, no pun intended, bones about the story.
Yeah.
So it's something that, because we had just talked about remakes and reboots, I would love to see like a remake of this movie.
Right?
Like, and for them to do a little more delving into it, a little bit different in the way that they take it. But this is a perfect movie that could be improved with a remake.
Yeah.
Especially for nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
well, it's funny because last week we talked about, when is too much too much? Sometimes, maybe, like in this case, maybe we would benefit from a remake of this movie in its entirety. I think it would be great. Or some kind of version. Maybe it would be a reboot or something like that. No, I agree. But overall, it was an enjoyable movie. I wouldn't say it was a great movie, but it was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it was good for what it was. I love Denzel and I love Queen Latifah, so it was great to see them together.
There's so many people in this movie.
Yeah.
Denzel, Jolie, Queen Latifah. It literally just the list goes on and on. You're like, wow, it's such amazing for that time to have that many actors all.
Yeah.
And also, I just have to say that I feel really bad for the guy who played the Dr. Killer, because he like always plays like that creepy guy who ends up, if there's some kind of murder, he almost always seems to be that guy.
Hey man, if you give off those vibes, get that money.
I guess,
right? Play to your strengths.
I guess it's just like, oh man, because.
Could you ever see him as a romance lead, or like in any other kind of role? Yeah.
I guess not.
At least they made him a doctor this time.
Certain people are typecast to play certain roles.
I know. Well, I'm a total nerd, and I'm rewatching Star Trek Voyager, and he's in that playing a murderous hologram.
See, at least they made him a doctor in this one.
Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah.
Moving up.
Well, yeah, but all in all, I just it's a good one that I watched growing up that definitely led me into liking CSI and all that stuff too. Like the whodunit, that whole genre is just something that I, as somebody who's a thirst for knowledge, I'm always like, oh, I need to find out what's going on.
Right.
What the mystery is.
Yeah.
Lost is another, like, what's going on, and just those type of things that keep you going of like, I need to know the answer.
Yeah, and I mean, as someone who did go to college for criminal justice for a little bit, I did take all of my like criminal investigation classes and everything, and they followed basically everything to like standard procedure. Like you walk the grid, you put one foot in front of the other, like you don't have anyone intrude on the crime scene whatsoever. And I mean, you definitely don't saw off people's hands to get handcuffs. Like you let the medical examiners handle that first. Right. You got to get pictures of it all.
Hey, this is the 90s. This is the 90s.
You get photos, you document it, and then you cut the hands off. That was my only issue with it. Also, I love they were like, oh, he's got all this advanced technology, and it's just. It's like Windows 1 or something. I don't know. Like
right.
Oh
well, let's do a little peek back in time.
Enhance. Enhance. Sir, there's no way you're getting that clear of a picture on that monitor.
with a roll Kodiak camera.
Yeah, exactly.
That you bought at the corner store. Enhance. It's like, come on. Well, it's almost like like sometimes watching those CSIs, like, like, can you expand that picture there? There must be something in the reflection of his glasses. And then
Zoom in 175%.
and
all the
they're like,
pixels clear up.
you're
Clarity
like, really?
110%.
It's like, that's the killer right there.
If it was that easy,
Right?
so much would be solved.
What are you talking about? You can solve a crime and a murder in 1 hour, according to every single
Zodiac
CSI.
Killer's still out there, so.
I'm talking about the CSI.
And CSIs are now in charge of going out in the field and everything too.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
case you didn't know, they do
Oh,
police
yeah,
work
yeah.
and
No.
lab
Yes.
work.
Yeah, and they also
everything else.
arrest, and it's crazy.
Oh yeah.
They're just really short on funding.
I'm sorry. Are you telling me that Horatio Caine can't put a bomb in his truck and drive it all the way across Miami to a beach and then walk away unscathed when it blows up in less than 5 minutes?
I guess the question is why?
Because he did that.
Would he have to do that?
Well, Jack Bauer can get across the country in 5 minutes, so
Right?
Dang.
And all that
Jack Bauer,
happens
he's
in
like,
24 hours.
I'm gonna go.
Oh yeah, 24.
I love that. I love that show. 24 was one of my
Once
favorites.
again, another thing with a lot of plot holes, but
Yes.
Yes, but a lot of fun.
Yes.
Thank you
Absolutely.
for this, and can't wait to talk about our next round of movie challenges coming up soon. And we've got more content coming your way, but until then, keep vibing.
bye guys.
Hey, I hope you liked the episode, and if you did, make sure that you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel for future content coming your way, new episodes of the podcast, plus more of the content that we are currently working on and the pre-production side of it, and hopefully produce it and get it out to you here very, very shortly. So stay tuned for that. Also, let us know in the comments below what you thought of the movie, if you agreed with us, if you disagreed with us, if you kind of see what we were talking about and how this kind of opened the door for shows like CSI or other movies in the whole subculture or subgenre. Got it this time. That's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next one. But until then, keep creating, build your brand, and go out there and tell your story.